What's up? What's up? Truth Disclosure 369. Back on the scene. It's been a minute. Haven't put anything out. Been going through the motions, but I'm blessed to be here once again. Uh man, so much has happened that has transpired since I made a video and did my little rants or just shared any information, but it's crazy how all of this stuff is playing out. And if you're just sitting back and enjoying the show or trying to figure out what the show is even what's even going on with the show, you're not alone. But I like to send peace and love and pray that all are in good health and good well-being as we continue to move through this craziness, which we know as the Twilight Zone. Nobody's exempt from it. Everybody is in this thing. But I wanted to get on here and share something because this is something that I have been paying attention to over the last couple of years as well. And there seems to be more and more information coming out on this, whether a person agrees with it. Everybody has their opinions, but it seems to be more of a push on making people aware, whether this is a myth or whatever. Uh, Everybody can't be lying, and there cannot be all of this uh, subject matter that really doesn't make sense when you bring it to. Let me get rid of this right here. Uh, Nothing makes sense in this narrative, and I guess it takes a person to have to uh, become aware of certain things in life as they continue to get older or whatever. I don't know, or the actual your eyes actually being open uh spiritually or mentally somehow, where now you look at some of the areas where we live at, not only in this country but all over the world, and you see something totally that doesn't make sense with the degree of supposed progression that we have achieved. And then when you go into the mentality of people, it just doesn't add up mathematically or balance out with some of the things that we've seen around us, and probably don't have any. It just doesn't add up. It seems like history and some of the things that were done, whether it was dealing with architecture or you know heating, the use of resources to provide certain things, the ability to provide electricity and power without using some of the fossil fuels or some of the resources that may be, in a sense, kind of harmful for the environment. But when you think about all of these old buildings, even the old castles, the old structures out here, forts, uh, government buildings, and everything. You even some of these buildings, being here in Detroit, there are so many buildings, old world type buildings around. Some of them are abandoned, and it's shameful to see it. But what I'm trying to get at is, there are a lot of these videos on YouTube now that's talking about uh, these different narratives. A lot of them centered around the Tartarian theory, in which there was a nation, an empire totally erased from history. Um, And the reasons could be because they were empire that were tolerant, universal, coexisted. This empire that was of many peoples, races, cultures, all identified upon one banner. They used etheric energy, which energy from the electromagnetic sphere around us, pulling energy and electricity from the air around us, uh, having societies that weren't dealing with banks or with money or none of that, but able to sustain and build all of these infrastructures. It's crazy. So when you think about it, I wanted to touch on this right here, this Pacific video. I'm just gonna play a snippet of it. But who buried our cities in the 19th century? And it brings in the question, the terrifying secret of the mud flood. So let's play a little bit and let me shut up for a minute. And I'm gonna stop right here. Now this is something that as a young person, going through daily routines with with your with my parents, and I'm pretty sure others have had similar remembrances. You remember going in state buildings or city buildings or federal buildings, and then you had some that were actually private owned buildings that were somebody's business or whatever. But you notice all of these buildings that have these uh, these floors that were like halfway in the ground. You had buried windows. You had buried. Some of them were actually looked like the windows were taken out or the doors were removed and they were bricked up, and then everything was halfway. It makes you so the when you was younger, you never really paid attention to it till you got a little bit older, and you started. Why would somebody do that? And then when you actually go in these buildings, I've been in buildings like this, and when they still actually have windows and you see partial window is underground and the others, it's like why would that even be done? Like why would in any logical sane mind would people want to do stuff like that, especially people who already achieved such greatness in architecture that's around us, astounding around us. Why would they do something like that? Seem like you're going backwards or you're trying to hide something. I don't know. It just so now you have this thing out here um, where people are paying more attention to stuff like this, and there's like uh, videos coming out one after the other speaking on this. Now let me shut up and go ahead and continue to play some of this. Mm. And I'm gonna stop it right here and interject. This is one of the reasons why my theory, in my opinion, why all of this craziness, all of this stuff that is happening out here in reality, dealing with government, from government to local, to just the attitudes and the the social uh, chaos that's happening out here. Like it's not a fluke while all this happening. It's not a fluke. You have uh, politics out here that's so poison that everybody is caught up, and they're not. While they're caught up, they're distracted from other things. While you're caught up worrying about the political narratives for the day, or the economical narrative for the day, or the religious narrative of the day, or the whatever narrative it may be, that there's other stuff at play that just really keeps you from becoming aware of. And I think now with people paying more attention to this has opened a door where you have a lot more of these videos coming out. But as he suggested, and I don't know, it may be an AI doing this, doing the actual narration. But at this point, what does it matter? Long as there is some awareness coming about with this topic of how all this stuff seems to be out of place, and compared with how society has gone, how it's like, dang, I would rather have lived back then. If you literally was uh, uh, able to power your businesses, or however they looked at these buildings, or whatever they was businesses, whether they was places to live, whether they actually was a mechanical instrument in itself. I don't know. I mean, but it seems like anytime you would mention free energy or etheric energy where they're able to power things, some of the buildings probably were utilized in this manner. I mean, how could you not want to beat that? See, it seemed like hell yeah, we went backwards, but all of these buildings with the that's halfway underground, it makes you wonder what is under our cities, what is under our, and I'm not just talking about sewer systems, and if like here in the Detroit area, you are on top of a salt mine. Most people don't even know it's been a salt mine, one of the biggest in the country. Which, why I don't understand, you should never run out of salt here, but uh, after this these storms, and boy, they was talking about they were running out of salt. But you never know what else is up under your feet, up under the foundations of your homes, businesses and stuff. What is, or even in old buildings or old homes, is there some other level up under the building that you're actually in? They ain't no. I've actually been in buildings where they had areas that were, rooms that you never could access or whatever. And I was told there was accesses to other areas or whatever. So you never know if that was an area that led tunnels up under stuff, connecting other stuff. Never know. But it's interesting um, that this topic is starting to get out there, and I believe it's all connected to all of this chaos, all of the lies that are being brought forth in our governments, in our economical stuff, because I believe a lot of this stuff that we've been dealing with has been kind of watered down, has been fake, and a lot of the people that lived before us um, that were written off in some instances as primitive, and like they could barely know how to do. They really had some access to some things, or maybe they were assisted by powers that we don't know of, or could consider to be extraterrestrial or interdimensional, or the gods, or all of the ancient theories and supposed myths or whatever. Maybe there was, but there's a huge vacuum here to actually see these buildings and understand that there was something greater going on in a timeline that has been completely removed, and maybe a system built up after this that literally breeds all the stuff that we are dealing with right now. And maybe it's coming to a head because it's time for everybody to know the truth. I don't know. But I'm just putting that out there. Let me play up a little bit more. Now I'm gonna go up a little bit more to some more stuff and just show like just the reality of some of these things. Some may, you may say that some of it may be AI or whatever, but how do we know that AI hadn't been around for hundreds of years, maybe thousands? Some of the old pictures that probably were put in some of our history books. How do we know that that's not AI? And they would put their because they already talk about a lot of these older pictures that were from like the 1800s and the early 1900s where you got all of this skyline, you never could see the sky, and they say certain things. They say one theory was that you don't see the sky because of all of the airships that they had going on around, these big ships that house many people, like floating cruise ships. And this was a famous mode of transportation. But you also had the construction uh, pictures where you will never see the buildings actually being built from the foundation up. You just see uh, like the dome part of a structure, and it have the casing around it, like they are using that, the staging around it. And it's like, how do you know that's not AI? How do you know a lot of this stuff is from that was in our history books? Even sometimes, hate to say it, but battlefields, and they show the battlefields of the Civil War or whatever, and they show pictures of wounded or the dead, not taken away from what has happened. But how do you know some of it hasn't been distorted by AI just to feed a narrative or a storyline? I don't know, but it just doesn't add up. And let me go to when you when you look at this stuff. So let me shut up for a minute, play some more. Now, this is something I didn't know. Seattle, Washington is one of the most secretive cities in the country. And there was some work done back years ago, when Seattle was first coming into being a city. They found out that it was all this stuff up under the city of Seattle. Like its structures, the buildings are going into the ground, level after sub level, and they actually have tunnels and stuff. So this right here is actually speaking on some of the history of Seattle in this portion. Another city. and just another thing, like the gold rush and other things that happened in the past that were kind of triggers for certain historical events to transpire. How do we know that actually happened that way? Or it wasn't just a narrative? Because when I envision the gold rush and all of these ragged people going over these western territories to mine for gold, you know, you see the image, you know what was put in the TV shows and in the movies and all this stuff. And then when you try and match it with, once again, these supreme structures and buildings, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. So you got some raggedy looking miners over here scrounging for gold dust and whatever they can get, and they're building shacks and these little rinky dink shelters in the background, closer to the areas that became cities. You know, you have these giant structures, and that doesn't wash anymore. Let me get back to the. Hmm, hmm. And this is the thing. Most of the narratives with, you know, the theories that people come across with this subject of old world or Tartarian infrastructure is always these um, incidents where there's a mass extinction level type um, happening that wipes out most of the people, which, you know, they've been doing because they talk about it all the time, which when they every time they mention reset, you know, whether it's been through the WEF or all these different organizations or governmental entities talking about resets and all this stuff had to been happening for real on a real uh, large scale, kind of like in the biblical with the flood. But there had to been more things happening. That just that flood wasn't it. It was more stuff. So the claim is that mud floods took out a lot of these areas, and I kind of believe that this could be a possibility of people who were living a different way of life, who were technologically advanced, and you had the powers who were jealous and didn't want this stuff to happen because they wanted to they wanted to get everybody up under a profit zone where they could profit off of people. I don't know, was this a mindset or was it different groups, bloodlines? Could be. All possibilities are there. But what I see is like people who were literally living a certain type of way, and another faction didn't want that. They wanted to take control over everything, and probably had technology or whatever in themselves, and cause a lot of this stuff to happen. And as you go into the history of this, I'm gonna get back on here and share some more stuff, but I just wanted to share this for this moment, this day, on just being aware of our surroundings, because from the way it looks like a lot of the stuff that we've been taught may have been watered down, and it doesn't matter what uh, school of thought you may come from. Somewhere down the line, it's been tainted or corrupted or distorted some kind of way. But these cities, who burned our cities in the 19th century? Uh, that's a good question. If this is a theory that could have some basis in reality, who could have been the culprits responsible for murdering millions of people to get their way and to instill their way of life on everybody else and impose their will? Who could that be? I've heard theories of the Christ millennial kingdom. It's different theories. It's the ice walls. Uh, Characters from over the ice walls came over and started stuff, you know, or maybe it was some stuff from off world that literally. So there's so many theories out here, but the reality of it is something's not right with the history books, and something's not right with all of these buildings that uh, don't align with the advancement of not only building, uh, but just the mindset of people. People wouldn't even have the mindset right now to do something like that. Even if there were a lot of these buildings were to be copied in this era right now, it would nowhere near uh, have any of the same semblance of any of this old stuff, all the way down to the detail oriented design work on a lot of these buildings. Man, it's just ridiculous. But I really believe that a lot of this is coming forefront because the lies that are have been amongst us all of our lives is beginning to loosen up, and people are beginning to see things in a with a different eye eyesight. So I just wanted to get on here and share something like this. I may get on here and have a rant, but for right now, I just wish everybody peace and blessings. And with all those who are going through, from the weather to the economy to being confused to being angry to being sad, to those who are steadfast and stand in their truth and are taking it one day at a time, those who are calling it all joy and the devil's a lie, I send you all peace as I came, and to keep an open mind and to continue to have trust in yourself, hope in yourself that you can get through whatever it is. If you have faith in God, you will. Peace.